This is our fall junior and parent night. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us tonight. Lots of familiar faces. And wow, I can't believe it's October already. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Lustig. I'm one of the directors of college counseling.
And I'm Demmy Villalpando. I'm the other director of college counseling.
With a new team comes new ideas, new energy, and new year. And if we haven't welcomed you to your junior year yet, now is the time to do so. And we are in the midst of it. So tonight, we are going to be going through just some of our philosophy, some background about ourselves, and what we're all about here. We really want to emphasize to you how important it is to have these kinds of conversations and dialogue. Our doors are open for us to develop these relationships, and so again, we thank you for taking the time to be here in person, and we hope that this will be more of a conversation than a presentation. We invite questions throughout the conversation tonight, and we hope that you are excited to begin this journey, junior year with us. Very, very important year. So we're going to be talking about plans for the fall, upcoming plans, events to keep in mind and to mark on your calendar, to-dos that you and your student should be thinking about in the months to come. So, and some updates to our program, fall timeline, dates, and important considerations. Oftentimes parents want to know and students want to know, am I on the right track? What should I be doing at this point, right? Am I missing any deadlines? What are the important considerations? So we're going to touch about all of that. Okay, junior advisory, how we're preparing your students in our curriculum, incorporated into the Meadows, basically how we operate. You know, college counseling is a priority here at the school, and we're very fortunate that we're able to integrate our curriculum and our lessons and the work that we need to accomplish into the daily lives of your students, so that by the time they're ready to apply to college in senior year, they've got their work done, and they really know where they're going. So then they're very well prepared. So we're going to be talking about what we're covering in our curriculum. Naviance, an introduction to Naviance, the resources you have available to you and how it can help you with the search, help your student put themselves in context with regard to college admissions, learn a little bit about the landscape of college and what kind of options are out there and the opportunities. So we want you to know that you have access to Naviance and how to use Naviance. College research and visits, and we are going to be talking about the junior college tour. So you guys get the very first latest scoop on that news. So that's coming up. And also, we have a variety of colleges, many colleges visiting the Meadows School. October in particular is a very busy month, so we want to make sure that your students are taking advantage of those opportunities to meet one-on-one with the colleges. Standardized testing, this is a big one. I'm sure you have been receiving many of my emails regarding the digital readiness check for the PSAT, which will take place tomorrow, and the PSAT, which is going to be digital, taking place next week. So we're going to talk about standardized testing and the timeline and the changes. Resources, what kind of resources we have available on our website as well as on our YouTube channel and by using us as well. So that's a little bit about tonight. Any questions about our agenda? Okay, fantastic.
All right. So we're going to start a little bit speaking about our philosophy. As Melissa said, it's a new team, new year, new vision and philosophy. One thing that we're really trying to achieve is to, if this school has already been known for their personalized counseling, we're going to take it even an extra step. We really want to make sure that we provide personalized attention to students. That means, starting from day one, being someone who they can strategize, think about summer programs, possibilities for competitions, internships, research possibilities. We want to be a resource that's there to guide them depending on what their interests are and to guide their experiences as well. So we want to make sure that students have curated experiences in high school that are sort of tailored to them with the help of not just themselves, but people who have been doing this for a long time and can probably make suggestions of what to do, what programs to look at, what to think about as you're drafting a narrative or creating a narrative as an applicant, right? So we really want to be a resource that helps navigate students their high school journey in relation to college. So and it's really not only about college. I think once they start working with us, they'll see that by showing them those doors of possibilities, they'll also become or have a much more fulfilling experience as high school students, right? When they start to engage with material that they might not have known about, but it is stimulating intellectually. So that's something that we really want to emphasize. The other thing is collaboration. We really want to go for a collaborative approach to our counseling. So we want to make sure that students know that they have more than one counselor. Even if they're assigned to a counselor, that just means that person's going to write the letters of rec. They really have two counselors. So they could visit both of them, have meetings with both of them, hear two perspectives, listen to, have different pairs of eyes to all the materials that they're working on. And that's just to their benefit, right? So having this sort of like boundaries destroyed from the counselors, I think it's really important to enrich the program here. And collaboration, I don't just mean within counselors. We are also trying to collaborate more and more with teachers, English teachers, other teachers as well, to make sure that we are on the same page as we move with everything counseling, right? So we're working very closely with a lot of the teachers, especially English teachers, but even theater teachers and whatnot. So that's something that we're really becoming really intentional about so that we can better serve our students. So to share a little bit of what this philosophy looks like in action, some of the things that we are doing, and I just talked about this, is the two-counselor system, right? So we want to make sure we still have students who, why don't you go talk to Ms. Lustig? And they're like, can I? Is that something that it's possible? Can I really talk to the other counselor? That's not my counselor, right? We really want to make sure that we send the message that it's fine. In fact, it's encouraged for students to really meet with the other counselor, get perspectives. It's always nice when I walk by and I see one of my students in Ms. Lustig's office and the other way around. So I think we really want to make sure that the students know that that's a possibility and that we encourage it. And emphasize that, yes, you do have a counselor. What that means is that person's going to write your letter of rec. We work collaboratively in collaboration, so if there's any notes that I have, I will share, of course, and that will help in the writing of the letter of rec as well. So that's a pretty important part that I want to point out. We want to make sure that we emphasize the importance of showing the possibilities that students have. We have a lot of resources that they all live on the website, which maybe it's not something that you visit very often, but if you go to the college counseling website for the Meadows, there are a lot of resources there. One thing that we put there is a nice document that has a lot of opportunities for summer programs, research, competitions, and even publications, journals that students can target for. So we have that there, but we welcome also those conversations. So generally, especially for juniors, if they're interested in a summer program that has selectivity, those deadlines are generally between December and February. So we want to make sure that we have meetings where we talk about possibilities for some of those programs that might not be, well known. I don't know, I don't know how many students have thought about, okay, I'm going to apply to RSI or BU Rise or all these things. These are conversations that we want to have early on, right? That might not be very obvious for students. So we encourage those meetings. Of course, because we're going with this approach, we do have very busy calendars and schedules. So I recommend, scheduling a meeting. It might be that it will be a while before we have availability, but we're more than willing to accommodate those meetings, particularly I would say in the month of November, to talk and plan with junior students and their parents possibilities for the summer. Yes, so we want to make sure too, and this is in the works, we're thinking, we're strategizing, how do we make sure that the college application process is not one that starts in the beginning of 12th grade and then we feel very rushed and we're trying to get, that personal statement completed in 2 months or something like that. That is not an experience that we really want students to have. So we're thinking and strategizing of ways of making sure that students are already starting the process in the second semester of 11th grade. So whether that's going to be incorporating something or collaborating with the English department or finding different possibilities to work with, we want to make sure that personal statements are something that we at least begin to develop in the second semester of 11th grade. So that's going to be something that we are working on. We still don't have like a definite strategy of how this is going to work. There's a lot of moving pieces there, but we definitely want to get to a position where we make sure that some of the elements of an application are completed within their junior year, especially the second semester. We also, we had a very nice run of boot camps. The first one is in June, right? There was a June one, and then there's a August one in 2 steps. So we want to even expand on those. We're thinking of possibility of multiple days boot camps where we get students to start strategizing again on a lot of these essays, but also important things like letters of recommendation, activity lists, and all these other things that right now, we have students that are trying to figure out, my recommender and all of that. We want to make sure that all of that is covered before even the beginning of 12th grade. So we're really going to become intentional of making sure that the timeline is a little bit smoother, more seamless, and far more organized. So hopefully, that's something to look forward to. And we're definitely working on that as well. So another big thing is we're trying to make sure that students get exposed to colleges early on. And for that reason, we're still, finishing up the details and all that, but it is very likely that we'll be going to Boston this year. So instead of doing the California trip, we're going to be going to Boston with all the juniors, and not just going to Boston and going to, MIT, Harvard, and the usual Boston schools, but we're going to have different themes. Students interested in business schools will go to a set of schools. Students interested in STEM schools will go to another set of schools. Students interested in the fine arts will go to another set of schools, and then there will be a more generalized pool of students to go to schools that are a little bit more well-rounded for those students who are undecided or much more in the College of Arts and Science field. So that's the plan, to make sure that we provide a more intentional, curated experience for students so they have a better chance of seeing more colleges that perhaps are not as close as California that you could probably go during the weekend and see. So we're really trying to make sure that the students get a more personalized experience in that way. Any questions about any of that? Okay.
And you will be organizing a junior college trip night, as we have done every year. That will be in January, where we'll ask you to fill out forms, sign your life away, all those permission slips that we require. We'll be distributing information about where we're going and the hotel information, all of that. So I also wanted to mention, so the boot camp, right, the Rising Senior Boot Camp in June. What we're planning on doing is expanding it. This year, the past few years, it's been half day. We'd like to expand it to over 3 days. So that way our students can really get work done, accomplishing their personal statements, getting rough drafts of supplemental essays, working on their resume, working on their activities, doing their letters of recommendation, refining their college list. Teachers have asked us over and over again, please have students request those letters of recommendation before they leave for the summer. So your juniors, as you're thinking about, developing those relationships with your teachers this year, keep in mind that junior year is when you're asking those teachers for recommendations. This is the year when you're probably challenging yourself in your most rigorous curriculum. You're taking those APs and really, taking your education to the next level. So these are teachers oftentimes where colleges are looking to see, those 2 core teachers from those academic subjects, especially in an area that you might want to study in college. You should be thinking about cultivating those relationships, building those that dynamic with your teachers, and thinking ahead as to who you're going to ask. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because usually that June boot camp is right after graduation, the week after graduation. So I'm asking you, please, don't do your vacations until after that week, because we want as much commitment, as many rising seniors as possible to participate in that June boot camp. And we're hoping to incorporate some excursions and to make it more of a fun experience and a bonding experience, not just work. Okay, there's plenty of time for that. So, and we'll be sending out some more information about those upcoming plans. But I wanted to give you a heads up because I know that those vacation ideas start percolating right around Christmas time. Okay, attending college visits and signing up. In Naviance, the Meadows is on the radar. We are a prominent school that colleges want to visit. We are highly respected, highly regarded. We had Georgetown come today. We've already had Emory. We've had Princeton. We've had Caltech. We've had I think we've had Johns Hopkins. Maybe Johns Hopkins. Yeah. I visited Johns Hopkins, not yet. But your students are updated with they can access Naviance and find out who's visiting. They hear it in the memos every single morning. It is in the newsletters, right? Or the memos that get sent to the parents for the weekly agendas. It's on our website as well. So when we've shown students how to sign up for these visits. One thing to keep in mind, and I had this conversation with American University. There were 2 students at American who attended the visit with American University. Both of them were sophomores, none of them were seniors. And American, the representative, Allison, who is a director of undergraduate admissions, flat out said, we track contact history and demonstrated interest. And if your seniors are planning on applying and they did not take the opportunity to be here, that will hurt them in the application process. So that's why we say to students, even if you have a test that day, even if you have a DBQ, even if you feel pressed to stay for that, for that classroom experience, come for 5 minutes. Introduce yourself. As I said to our seniors, We had a student last year who, Vanderbilt was her top choice. She was planning on applying ED, and this was Ashley Hoplander. And she had a test that day, but she came in and she introduced herself to Lawson. She shook his hand. She said, "I met you on campus, visited. You'll be seeing my application. You're my number one choice. And even though I have to run back to class, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for being here." And you can put a face to a name. So, and she's at Vanderbilt, right? Not that that was the singular reason why she's there, but I can tell you also that even though, like Georgetown, for example, today, Bruce Chamberlain, associate director, he's been there for 20 years. He said, "We don't track contact history, but I can tell you very much that when Ella Maurice was sitting in front of him and he mentioned that Georgetown provided the translators for the Nuremberg trials, she practically popped out of her seat. And she was glowing and effusive and enthusiastic, and he noticed it, right? And that connection, right? He's like, okay, so you've already had an interview. You've already been to campus. You are an avid historian. I notice you, right? I'm making a connection with you. And so when your application hits my desk, I will remember. It's a personalized human touch, right? That can't be discounted. So I encourage your juniors, if they have an opportunity to sit in front of these admissions directors, they could be the only one. Matthew Stephen last year, or the year before, getting my years mixed up, he was meeting with our GW rep, and Lee Stork, who's our GW rep, said, "I met you as a sophomore, didn't I? You asked some great questions about our BSMD program," right? And she remembered. So please take advantage of these opportunities. The PSAT, so juniors have an opportunity to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship by taking the PSAT next week. It is a digital test, so please, when your students come for the digital readiness check tomorrow, please have them come with the device that they plan to be using during the PSAT. It should be fully charged. They can bring an external power source, but they should not, we cannot guarantee that they will be able to plug in any of their devices during the exam. There's an embedded calculator in the in Blue Book, but they can also bring their own calculator as well. So we've encouraged students to practice with Blue Book, which is the app that College Board is going to be using for the test. After the SAT is also going digital after this year. So October and November are the last days for students to take the SAT on paper. After that, there will only be digital. So if your students would prefer taking it on paper, I encourage them to register for the October and November tests. Those dates fill up very quickly, seats fill up quickly because many of our seniors are still testing as well. So do that as soon as possible. Most colleges, every college will accept either the SAT or the ACT if they are choosing to accept test scores. And many colleges will also super score as well, meaning you can send scores from multiple test dates to combine for the highest testing. Okay, participating in the case study program. This is our third annual case study and college fair, and it occurs during the Southern Nevada College Week. We have 21 colleges planning on being here, and it is your opportunity. How many of you participated in the case study last year? Yes. How many of you would recommend it? Yes. So look at those other hands, right? Ask if you didn't have a chance last year as sophomores. We highly encourage you to come. Some of the reps will be new. Some of the colleges will be new. These are the admissions directors who will be reading your son or daughter's application. They travel to our territory. They are official, readers and directors. They're not here, just to travel. They're here to meet you and to answer your questions. They will walk you through mock applications, how they read applications, how they determine whether a student is competitive for admissions, how they assess fit, how they interpret and determine whether or not a student is going to be admissible or not. There will be 4 applications, and you, as parents and students, will be put in the position of deciding the fate of those 4 applicants. So you'll be reading the applications alongside those directors. They'll guide you through it, and you get to decide which one out of the 4 students is going to be admitted. So we encourage you to come. It is just a real window into the world of competitive college admissions, and it's a great opportunity afterwards to chat with the colleges during a college fair. We have 49 people who have already registered. We hope to see you all there. Register and attend one of the college fairs locally during the Southern Nevada College Fair, College Week, starting with Faith Lutheran on that Sunday from 4 to 6. So if for some reason you can't attend our program on that Wednesday night, because we understand our students are very busy, hopefully you have a chance on that Sunday at Faith Lutheran, and I believe it's from 4 to 6 p.m. There's also a fair at Bishop Gorman in the evening that same week. You can go to strivefair.com to register, and we hope that you do. Join us for Financial Aid Parent Night, November 29th. You're very fortunate because this year is a year when the FAFSA is undergoing what's called a Simplification Act. And it's not available until December. Typically, it is available in October. But this year there's going to be a delay, and fortunately you don't have to deal with it. So our seniors do. You get to benefit from having to learn from their experience, have them be the guinea pigs of the FAFSA Simplification Act, and we hope that you will take the opportunity to learn about how to pay for college. Right? Even if you don't think you can qualify, I'm going to tell you, you should be applying. Any admissions director or financial aid director will tell you that even if you don't think you'll qualify, you should apply. And we're going to go through that application, the process, and what kind of money you could receive, how much money, how you can get colleges to pay for you to go to their college, etc. So 6 to 7 p.m., November 29th. End of quarter 1, this Friday, how it's just flown by. Wow. So the most important thing I would say to you for junior year is to present your best self, right? Do your best work, engage with your educational experience here. You are so fortunate to have teachers who are passionate, who are experts in their field, who love teaching, who love, encouraging and inspiring students to also love learning. So please make the most of your education here. Get involved, engage in class discussions, take the opportunity to explore what you love to do, and take it to the next level as well. Challenge yourself, take risks, look for opportunities to gain leadership abilities, leadership skills, and deepen your knowledge in areas and talents that you may want to pursue in the future, that you may want to showcase to the colleges when you apply. So we already mentioned developing the teacher relationships, right? Highly selective summer programs. We would love to start working with you in November, December, as you're thinking about how to utilize your summer. Summer between junior and senior year is probably going to be your busiest summer yet, because you are going to be utilizing your time not only academically, doing something intellectual, maybe pursuing an academic program or a class or a camp or an immersion, but also working on your college applications, perhaps also studying for standardized testing, perhaps also maybe doing an internship or a research opportunity or a job experience, right, to get some of the career exploration and some real life, real world experience that we think is so valuable and is really appreciated. So just keep that in mind, that those programs can fill up very quickly, and so especially the more reputable ones. So these are our QR codes note, if you want to scan them for the case study and register for the case study, you should have received information about it in your folder as well, and then also for the Southern Nevada College Fair. So you can see that both parents and students are welcome, and it's just a great opportunity. So. This needs to be updated, but this gives you an idea of just all of the lessons, all of the curriculum that we incorporate into advisory for juniors. We've basically just scratched the surface for juniors with the college search, introduction to Naviance, signing up for college visits, asking questions to ask, right? How to present yourself in those kinds of conversations. We've started talking about the college list, and this is all build up to what we've already incorporated freshman year and sophomore year. So we take a real big picture approach to knowing that every year there are timely messages and steps to take, so that way a student is feeling comfortable and confident and knowledgeable and informed, informed about their journey, and feeling like they can own this, because they can, right? This is the time to really step up and realize that you're the one going to college, right? It's important that you put your you start making those meetings and having those conversations, and realize that you're the one in the driver's seat and you can do this, right? This is your future, and own it. Naviance.
Great. So we want to spend some time to talk about Naviance. Naviance is a very useful tool that houses a lot of the data that has been stored there from the Meadows and other schools, which makes it really, really useful. I mean, so obviously you could Google, acceptance rate for a place, for a university or a college, and then check, estimate what's the chances or all of that. Naviance is actually a great place that will probably give you slightly more accurate data in the context of the Meadows, right? So because they store information there, all of our data of past applicants who applied to these schools, there's a record of who got into which schools with what GPA, with what SAT scores, which can give you a more accurate estimation, at least numbers-wise, right? We know there's holistic application. We know that the numbers are not everything, but this will give you the numbers of whether a school makes sense or not. There are many other different tools there. If you just want to take a look and navigate a college, there's going to be information about acceptance rates, but also financial aid, size of the universities. You're going to get your typical information about colleges there as well. This is a good place where you can see student GPA, test scores, and overall start playing with whether you match with a school or not. Students are actively engaging with Naviance during advisory, but we recommend parents to also engage with it as a tool to figure out where are we in the context of certain colleges that might be interesting. This is a particularly useful tool as you're working on creating a college list, maybe to go on college visits, right? So if you're thinking, we're going to do college visits during spring break as a family, and this might be a fantastic tool to figure out how do we target a well-balanced list of schools. If it might make sense to have a wide range in the spectrum of selectivity schools that you want to visit, especially that match the student's background in Naviance. So that it's a great tool to create college lists. It's a great tool to get a sense of where we are in determining selectivity and chance, not chances, but the level of reach between one school or the other, right? So if you look, for example, at Caltech, and then you might realize that we don't do too well, but you might look at another school and we do fantastic, right? So that tells a story, right? So you can look at some of the schools and get a sense of how do we do in the context of them. So here's an example of the purple shows the students, the Meadows, the average Meadows GPA and also the SAT scores, and it will show you the students' numbers as well. So if your student has a 4.2, it would show over there, and if they have, say, a 1600, well, they will appear all the way over there, which will give you a good sense of where they are in this. So we really invite parents to be active on Naviance. Everybody has access to Naviance. If you don't know how to log in, I recommend emailing Ms. Hines to get you started with it. It really is a good tool, and it's a little bit more targeted and personalized than a Google search. So I do recommend spending time with them. Here's a little bit of the different type of data that you can see there. You can see acceptance rates. You can see all these different numbers in terms of chances of getting. This is the number of students that applied. The red. The red means that they didn't get in. The check, the green means students that got in. It is in Naviance as well that students register for their visits. So if we have a representative coming to the Meadows, it is through Naviance that they can register to attend. So this is something that the parents can also be aware of. You can see if a school is coming if you just go to our website, but also through Naviance you can see which schools are coming. And students can easily register for those visits, which again, we really recommend that students go to this the rep visits. We have small turnouts, and we understand it's mostly because we keep hearing we don't want to miss class. We don't want to it's hard to miss class, and it feels like I fall behind every time I miss class. So we're really actively working with the teachers to make sure that that's not the case. These visits are important. It's important for the students to learn about the colleges. It's important for the colleges to learn about the students. It's an important exchange between institution and student. We really recommend and encourage students to actively participate, even if it's a school that especially if it's a school that they're like, oh, I'm kind of interested. I don't know enough. I don't know if it's going to make it to my college list. Maybe that visit will make it or break it for them. I had a student this morning who went to the Georgetown visit, and she was like, I don't think so. It's a school that feels interesting, but maybe it's not the right fit for me. Maybe I'm going to replace I will bring in another reach instead of this one. And for another student, it was like, yes, this is the place, right? So those visits are important for the student to feel like, this is the right place for me. It doesn't replace visiting the college itself, but it gets close. It's a good experience. The college is visiting you. So please encourage your students to be a part of this. We're actively working with teachers to make sure that this doesn't hurt them academically. We really want to, create a culture where the students are feeling comfortable going to these visits and that they're not being punished academically for doing so. So yes, they can use these resources as well. We want to make sure the students have a balanced list with all the different levels of selectivity in the spectrum. A balanced list guarantees that the student doesn't go with, okay, well, it's my college list, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, you just net the top 5 or the top 10. That's not very balanced, and it's also doubtful that all of the top 10 are the best fit, right? So, schools have different personalities, schools have different vibes. It's important for a student to match themselves to the different colleges beyond selectivity and acceptance rates.
Any questions?
Any questions about this? Yes.
Question. So, the Sally grant, is there any way to filter for the time period?
Yes, time period you can.
So, that's a great question. I can.
Yeah.
I haven't played with it in terms of the time periods. But
Yeah, you can. I have. So you can, I think the default is 2018, 19 to present. You can move it to 1 year or to additional years. So what you cannot do is get picky and say, okay, I will choose a major, or I will choose, gender, or you cannot get very specific, which would help, and especially for students who are interested in like a business program or engineering, computer science, and all of those fields. You might look at UIUC and see, the acceptance rate is 60%. If you're interested in the computer science program, that's more like a 7-8%. So it can be radically different just from a field of study. So this data is great and amazing, but there are also other things to consider as you're navigating the stats. But I'm pretty sure, almost certain, that you can move the time. I think for the Meadows, I think last time I checked, it goes to 2011, 13 or 11, something like that. But I think you can play with it a little bit and move there.
And also the GPAs that are here, that are listed, of course they're weighted, but they're also documented as the end of 12th grade. So don't freak out if your student, if their GPA is significantly lower on the scattergrams, because that's still just junior year, right? This is the end of senior year. And Mr. V makes a great point with regard to selectivity. So percentage acceptance rates can be very deceiving because there are some programs, if a student is applying to, say, like the School of Cinematic Arts at USC, or the film school at Yale or NYU, or if they're applying to the School of Engineering, School of Business, these highly selective programs, the acceptance rates can be brutal, quite honestly. Extremely competitive, extremely rigorous, some requiring, extensive portfolios as well. So it's really important to do your research when it comes to specific majors, and as the UCs would call them, impacted majors. Computer science, for example, is a hugely impacted major at the UCs, and that necessitates some strategy as well, which is where we come in, and we can really help students when it comes to submitting their applications in terms of strategizing their majors, the programs, the timeline, whether to apply early versus early action or early decision or regular, and really give them some tips with regard to how to utilize the admissions, kind of how to strategize, and kind of how to play the game, quite honestly. Okay. Any other questions about this? Questions?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, that says that the average graduating Meadows senior is 4.75 for each year.
Where are you looking at that?
Is that on the standard diagram? Is that where most people are, about 4.75?
That is probably for USC. So this is the scattergram for USC.
Gotcha. So I thought it was.
Yes. So at USC, that's probably 4.75 is the average weighted GPA of the students who are applying to USC.
By the end of senior year.
By the end of senior year, yes. We want to also acknowledge that college admissions is so incredibly nuanced, right? It's so much more than just numbers, those quantitative details, right? There's only so much that can be interpreted through grades, through the transcript. Yes, the transcript is the first piece that college admissions looks at, right? Your curriculum choices, how you've maximized the opportunities at your school within the context of the school, right? So what does the Meadows offer? How have you taken advantage of the opportunities? How well have you done? Is there an upward trend? Are you consistent in your performance, right? Are there areas of specialization that you've really distinguished yourself in, and et cetera, et cetera. Test scores, more and more colleges are going test optional, right? But there are still some where they do require testing, and the reality is that we find that among the highly selective institutions, the majority of students send scores.
And the reality is also that if you have scores that are competitive for those institutions based on your research, it behooves you to send those scores because they can enhance your application, right? I will tell you, and you need to believe me and believe the colleges, that if a college is test optional, they truly are test optional. They will not penalize you for not sending scores, but if you are proud of your scores and you would like to send your scores, they can help your application. Does that make sense? Right? So, take this testing seriously, but don't get over anxious about it. Don't feel as though, your admissions is hinging upon those test scores at all, okay? We need to keep a level head about this and keep everything in perspective, because colleges are looking at what you will contribute, who you are as a person, what your passions are, and what you're going to contribute to their campus that's unique. If it was just about grades and test scores, our valedictorians would be admitted everywhere, right? And college is not like that. It's not black and white. It's very complicated, and that's what we're here for. So we're here to help you kind of understand it and demystify it for you and walk you through this. So we hope that you use us as resources. And use us.
Yeah, one thing that I do want to emphasize, Naviance is a great tool, but it doesn't replace meetings with us. I mean, there's always going to be more specificity required in a conversation, whether it's a conversation about SAT scores, whether it's a conversation of like, I have a 1520, but I want to have a 1580. Is it worth, continue to, all of these conversations we recommend that take place in meetings where we can be very specific about, your student's case and all of that. I also do want to talk about, especially, probably if we've met, you've heard this whole spiel of the importance of a student narrative. So yes, the numbers are important. Yes, GPAs are, great, but they're often becoming a little bit more of a filter, right? At the end, one of the biggest questions for these colleges that are highly selective is going to be, yes, you have these scores, but so that other 20,000 students, what's your story, right? What exactly are you telling as an applicant? What is it that makes you you, and how you are a good fit with us, the university, right? So it's really about crafting a narrative as an applicant that shows that you're curious, that you're inquisitive, that you're intellectually driven, but also maybe compassionate and empathetic, that you want to make an impact. And again, the things that you build might be a better fit for X school than Y school, and that's why we're there to help students navigate, which schools make the most sense, because not all the schools are exactly the same. If they were, they would all accept the same people, and they clearly don't. So they have like a different set of students. So we encourage those conversations. We are happy to be allies in the curation of those narratives. And a narrative is not built in 12th grade. A narrative can start being built in 9th grade. And that's what we're working on, and becoming more intentional about driving these experiences. But in 9th grade, it's important for us to have these conversations to see, what do we do to make sure that the voice and the story of the student is really well represented? And we definitely want to be part of that.
I feel like we've covered. Any questions about standardized testing at the moment?
One thing I just want to mention is the timeline with regard to testing, when a student should begin testing, when we recommend it, is very personalized. It's not the same for every student. Some students begin prepping, over the summer and are accelerated in certain subjects. Others, they want to have a full grasp of Algebra 2. It behooves them to have a full grasp of Algebra 2 trig under their belt, right? So maybe for them, it's better to take it in the spring of junior year. So that's a conversation that needs to happen one-on-one. It's not a a one-size-fits-all, just as admissions and the college search is not a one-size-fits-all. So please don't, feel like it's not a, keeping up with the Jones. Oh, so-and-so took the tests, October and got a 1500, my student should be doing this now. That's not advantageous to your student, and it's not healthy either. And it's not great strategy. So that's something that we want to talk to you about and really personalize to you and your students. SAT or ACT, as I mentioned, colleges will accept either one. They are very different. The ACT is still paper, and it's still going to be paper. It benefits your students to try both, quite honestly. For the vast majority of students, they do equivalent on both, but for others, for about a quarter of the students, they are vastly different, so they score significantly better on one versus the other. How do you know which one? You try it. Or if you're working with an individualized standardized test tutor, they will help you determine that. Or you could just practice, right? Take a diagnostic of each one and see which one feels better to you, right? In terms of the content and the speed and the questions that are being asked. And don't feel like you need to decide right now either. Any questions about standardized testing? Yes.
In the example that was just given, so let's say a student says, I got a 1530, I want that 1580. When do you stop? When do you say, is it the school? Is it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the question was, the difference between a 1530 and a 1580. When do you decide that it's worth stopping? And I think you'll probably get a lot of different opinions about it. I would say part of it is timeline, at least in my experience, working backwards from deadlines for senior year. So for example, if a student, if they've been working diligently, right, that the 1530 is maybe the first time, right? It's the first time they haven't prepped, and they want to go for that additional, score, and they've been working towards it, right? Then it might be worth it. And also the part of it is, what's the timeline, right? If they are looking at a October 15th deadline or November 1st deadline, it might be a little bit late to be taking that next exam. The other thing is that it's, in my experience, the difference of a 1530 and a 1580, it's not the reason why a college admits or denies a student, right? Those minutia of the test scores, if you're above a 1500, you're in the stratosphere when it comes to testing. You're in the top 1% of testers, and it's never been my experience that a college has said, or would even say, 1530, why didn't they take it hot, more times, right? Why aren't they getting a 1600 now? That is never the reason why a student is admitted or denied, just based on, 50 points. No. What is your thought?
Yeah, I agree. Timeline is very important. I would also say something that's important is that you realize whether it's going to be diminishing returns when going from a 1530 to a 1550, it requires hundreds of hours of grinding, when you could be spending those hundreds of hours on maybe, a great community project or research or, engaging in higher leadership on your club or whatever, right? You could be doing things that will likely have much more of an impact than those numbers. Of course, it's important to think also about goals. If your goal is MIT and you have a 1470, that number might not be very, typical with MIT. I mean, in my experience, my MIT admits are generally 1580 to 1600 almost consistently. I think there are differences, if you're an underrepresented minority, if you come from, there can be things, but it's important to think also about what's the target school, what's the target program. If we're thinking computer science as well, and we're looking at Carnegie Mellon, and we're looking at all these different schools, and you're there, I think a 1530, a 1580 can potentially make a difference. So it really depends on the school that it's being targeted, it depends on the field that's being targeted, it depends on the timeline. It depends on whether or not it's going to be, strategy-wise, the wisest use of time. I've had students who get really fixated with not necessarily SAT, but it could be something else, right? Like maybe in computer science, the Olympiad, the musical, right? Oh yes, I have to be platinum, and I'll dedicate my life to becoming musical platinum, and they become musical platinum. But they end up doing not so well because they forgot about everything else. They didn't explore enough, they didn't engage with the community enough, maybe they didn't pursue those leaderships and all things because they got fixated on something. That could happen with the SAT as well. I recommend that that's not the case. It's important to look, again, at the context of the schools. Know, again, that, students are not globally compared. Students are always looked at in the context of their community, their school first. So, they look at the context of the school, what we offer, what the numbers are typically here, and things like that. So that's something to remember. But again, I do think this is also a conversation that merits a meeting where we discuss it and strategize.
So how many of you have actually been on the college counseling website? Okay, a few of you. We thought it would be worthwhile right now. I'm actually going to exit out of my screen here and just show you the resources that are available to you. So you get to the college counseling website by going to the upper school, and then so if you're on the upper school, or just the Meadows site in general, under academics, we have college counseling right here. And we, as a department, have worked extremely hard to create a robust resource for you. So among the resources that you have available here are school profile. We've been talking extensively about how colleges review applicants within context of the school. One of the things that we communicate in our profile, which you have available here, is we limit the number of AP classes that our students can take. Right? It's really important for colleges to know that we strive to create a balanced community. We want our students extremely involved. They're talented, they're motivated, they're ambitious. They want to have a life too, right? And they have activities that create a well-rounded person. So as a result of that, we don't want students to be penalized for the fact that they're taking 4 AP classes, which for the majority of colleges, college students are taking 4 or maybe 5 college level classes. These are college level classes, right? And in addition to those, they are taking, possibly an advanced topics class, or a required economics class, or several elective classes, or they're involved in, theater or athletics or music, and they're traveling, debate, they're traveling extensively. I mean, it's such an enormous time commitment. So it really does, it's in the best interest of our students, actually, to limit the number and to communicate that to the colleges. We also explain in our profile what advanced topics courses are, and how our students are engaged in research at the high school level, how they're presenting their research, how they're getting published, that we have a curriculum here that really caters to our students and allows for advanced study, whether it's in modern physics or multivariable calculus or Spanish film and conversation. So it gives colleges an opportunity to learn about us and how competitive we are. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to really highlight that part about the student within the context. If you hear about, another student at a different school that has taken 15 APs, and you're like, oh wow, that means we don't have a shot because there's no way we can get to 15 APs. That's not the case. The student is they're going to evaluate the student based on their context. If their school allows the students to take 20 APs and they're taking 15, and we allow 9, and our student's taking 9, our student looks better because it's in the context of their school. If we had 1 AP and the student takes 1 AP, that's what they're going to evaluate. They're not going to evaluate globally. It's always within the context of your school. And of course, it helps that we explain, and that's why we have the school profile that explains our philosophy, our curriculum, and the way that we approach academics as well. So that's important to note, because sometimes, a lot of public schools will allow students to take, endless APs. That doesn't mean that they are in a better position than our students.
In addition to the profile, which we encourage you to check out, if you click on Admission Officer Visits, you will also see the schools that have visited, when they're visiting, or when they visited, upcoming visits as well. So that way you could nudge your student, oh, look, we see that Syracuse is coming, or Johns Hopkins is coming, or, oh, wait, so-and-so mentioned, is at Lafayette, and that could be a great fit. So let's check it out. So it's a great opportunity for you to kind of encourage your student as well, and for students to see who's coming up at your fingertips. The testing calendar here, Mr. B was referring to the new resource, which is our summer programs, competitions, and more. And it is divided up by area of discipline. So you can actually see it's how many pages is it? 126 pages. And they talk all about summer programs, even for students under 16. So, and you can literally go through every single discipline and see what kinds of college programs are available, competitions, etc., which is a phenomenal resource. Financial aid and scholarships. If you're wondering, how do I find money for college? Scholarships, you can start searching for scholarships now. And what you can do is, and these are all scholarships that we have researched, they're authentic, you don't have to pay for them, they're not a scam. You just go to financial aid and you click on Nevada National Scholarship listings. They're not just for seniors. There's also a listing of other scholarship websites that you can look at, noteworthy articles and resources that are available to you if you want to learn more about the financial aid process. And then college trips week, some information there as well. And then of course, you also have access to our YouTube channel and college counseling on demand as well. So we encourage our students and parents to check out the website and realize that there's a lot of information there as well. And we are working on a handbook too, so hopefully that'll be available next year too. If you'd like to scan the QR code to go directly to the college counseling on demand, there are some of the videos include like the junior year timeline. Right now we just talked about the fall, but the junior year timeline that's on demand, all of these videos are about 10 minutes or less, with the exception of financial aid, because we go through exactly what forms are required and how to interpret financial aid documents and award letters. But the timeline for junior year also includes the spring, the winter, and the spring. So it definitely is worthwhile to view. If we went through Naviance, we went through it rather fast. If you want to learn more about it and the program, there's an introduction to Naviance. There's an introduction to the Common App. If you want a head start on what is the Common App, what components are required in the application. If you are ambitious and you want to learn about senior year, right? There's a senior year timeline on there as well. So there's about 14 videos on there. We hope you take advantage of them and reach out to us if you have questions. So on that note, any questions? Yes.
A question. So to your earlier point, you said that colleges look at school, they're not looking at the content of your school. So Meadows will only allow a certain amount of AP classes, whereas West Tech might allow a lot more. Holding all things equal, a student at West Tech who took like 5 more AP classes scored a 5 on it. Did the college just explain why they wouldn't just take the West Tech student?
Yeah, so, I mean, part of it is you've got to look holistically at everything. But a college is not going to penalize, like I said, penalize one of our kids just because we actually restrict them from taking those additional classes because we want them to engage in other activities and other opportunities. The reality is also that colleges value applicants from the Meadows, right? They are looking for a diverse class of students. They want students, and they want students who are exceptional, who are unique, who are distinguished in their own right here, right? When I worked at Colorado College, for example, in admissions, I was there for 9 years, and there were students who applied to Colorado College that came from rural towns, one-stoplight towns. They had no AP classes. They were taking pre-collegiate programs. They were taking courses at their local community college because that was the only thing available to them, right? And we valued those students for their perspective, for their backgrounds, for how they were really kind of utilizing the educational opportunities available. So it really is, it's not an apples to apples, right? They want students from all over the country, all over the world, right? And they're looking at, within the school, how is the student maximized their opportunities at that school, right? They can't compare students to other opportunities available. Same thing with students who attend, public schools in Las Vegas that don't have college counselors, right? There are many schools that have guidance counselors, and it's a 1 to 400 ratio. That's the other thing, is that when admissions officers read our applicants, they know that the students are going to present very well. They're going to present very thoughtful applications because they've been able to have the kind of guidance and educational resources, right? So it's, again, kind of the lens through which they're looking, and every student and every school is viewed uniquely onto themselves. Anything you have?
Yeah, I would say because they're not only looking at grades and class rigor as, ways to evaluate an applicant, they don't really have to explain why this student with far more APs didn't get in versus another one, because it could very well not be an academics question, right? If the student is challenging themselves within their own context, that's all they want. They want, okay, this student is challenging themselves academically. The reality, if that were not true, some of the, Fairfax County in Virginia would have pretty much all the acceptances at Caltech and MIT and all of that because, their 9th graders take multivariable calculus. We don't, right? So if they penalize students for that, then it would not be fair. It would be certain areas, the Silicon Valley would do great. Virginia, Fairfax County would do great. New England with those schools would do great. And then what about everyone else? So they want to make sure that they have, that's why holistic review exists, to avoid those type of complications. And they want to see that the student is challenging themselves in the context of their school, but also what else they're doing, right? What is their story? How are they contributing to their society? How are they becoming, inquisitive? And the type of exploration that they do in the classroom, outside of the classroom. And really that would be the main reason they wouldn't need to explain.
And I can also, everything that you're saying, I absolutely agree with. I can also tell you that when I worked at Colorado College, the year that I left, our acceptance rate was 15%. And there were a fair number of valedictorians that we denied because they didn't have depth to them. They were competitive, right? And they could do the work, but there was no compelling factor, and they had to have 3C. We called it the 3 C's of CC, right? Are they compelling? Are they compelling? Are they competitive? Are they capable of doing the work? They would have 2 out of the 3, right? And so we looked at, beyond the grades, beyond the test scores, right? What else? what else? Why should I admit this student? They can do the work, right? They challenge themselves academically, but what makes them unique? And so part of what our role is and what we strive to accomplish here at the Meadows is to encourage our students to be self-actualized, to really maximize their potential, to discover who they are as a person, and to bring that forth, to help them articulate it, right? So part of our job is also asking them pointed questions about, what do you want to study and why? What are you looking for in your future? What are your goals for your education? How do you feel like you've grown over the years, right? What have been those pivotal moments that have really challenged you and inspired you? And what inspires you? And so helping them think and to be elevated in their thinking and their critical thinking and their reasoning and how they communicate themselves, how they carry themselves with poise, with respect, with an ability to articulate in a very mature way, to communicate. Our students are exceptional, and colleges note that, and they want our kids. So that's a little bit about who we are, and the colleges recognize that. Other questions? Yes, question.
I have two. When did you say the last paper SAT?
So this year, so October and November, so is there a December ACT? Yeah, so if you click on, actually, this is great.
October is too late to register.
Yeah, October, I think October's too late. November closes in like 2 days. But for the regular, but the late registration is through October 26th, I believe. But you pay a late fee for that. So if you're looking at, so there's a December SAT, so that would be the last time for the paper exam. Yeah, the December.
Okay, second question. When colleges look at kids, if they're taking, how do they look at a student that takes like a much higher math, but maybe gets an A- opposed to taking the lower math and getting the A+? How do colleges look at that? Does my question make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question was, how do colleges evaluate a student who's taking a more rigorous class and getting a slightly lower grade versus a regular class, or and getting just a straight A or an A+? You interested in taking a crack on it?
It's a great question, and it's one that, there's no definite answer to. It really depends also on which class it is, what's the intended major, right? If we have a student who's very interested in engineering and they have straight A's in their algebra, pre-algebra, and geometry as a senior, then they might not be as competitive as the ones that are taking the calculus BC, their multivariable and things like that. So there might be a big difference between what is considered rigor for a particular field versus the other. So that might be an important thing to consider. It's also a question of the difference that we were told here. Normally I would say, well, in that case you go for class rigor. If it's an A- versus an A, then the difference is not that big. So if somebody's in calculus BC or calculus normal, I take the calculus BC because that's the higher level. But if it's a difference between a C+ and an A-, there we have to think about a little bit more carefully. Again, I think this is a great question to also have in the context of the specific student, where they are in their journey, and what are their goals, dreams, aspirations in terms of college. Any other questions? Great.
Well, we encourage you to come up, ask us if you have any questions. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We hope that you